Well, I'm running for United States Congress in the 19th District of New York because we need a change in our government. We need checks and balances. We need a new approach to the war in Iraq. We need a new approach to our healthcare policy. We need a new approach to our energy policy. We need a new approach to our education policy. And we're not going to get any of these changes from the same people that have been making the bad decisions over the last 6 years. And if you want different results from Washington, you want to change the people you send now to Washington. And I'm grateful to have Ambassador Joe Wilson here today, who I first learned about when I read his widely read column, op-ed column in the New York Times about the myth that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction and yellow cake he'd obtained from Niger and aluminum tubes that were intended for centrifuges to concentrate uranium and to enrich it. And the 18 words that were included in the State of the Union address that should not have been there, which Ambassador Wilson challenged. And the response to that challenge is the same, kind of response that I, as a much smaller scale, have been seeing here in my race with Sue Kelly, which is slime and lies and misrepresentation. And in the case of Joe Wilson, it was the exposure, the outing of his wife as a covert CIA agent, which was not only a risk to her safety and termination of her career, in effect, but also put at risk anybody she had been talking to, any of the contacts that she may have had professionally. So it's unusual to have a spy, an intelligence officer of one of our intelligence agencies revealed to the public, leaked to the public by our own government, let alone by our own White House or Vice President's office. So that was a unique event, and it caught my attention and the attention of many Americans. And so I shouldn't talk about it. I should let Joe Wilson talk about it. But that's what he's here to help me change the government so these kinds of things don't happen again.
Thanks, John, very much. Thank you. Thanks very much. I'm actually up here because I believe profoundly that we need a new majority in the Congress of the United States in Washington. It has less to do with Republican and Democrat and much more to do with the congressional majority having utterly abdicated its responsibilities to provide oversight, as the Constitution presages that it should do. And quite literally it is sacrificed the Constitution of the United States on the altar of what I believe is misplaced partisan loyalty. And until we get a new majority in Congress, we're not going to get the hard questions asked of this executive branch and of this White House. Specifically, why have they taken our nation into such folly? Not just the war in Iraq, but certainly the war in Iraq is central to it, but a foreign policy that has really led to the utter collapse of American political and moral authority and international leadership capacity in the world. I do this because I care a lot about my country. I served my country for 23 years as a diplomat. My wife served for 20 years as a CIA officer. We served the Constitution of the United States. We swore an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. We want to see a Congress that swears that same oath and indeed acts on it. So that's why I'm up here. The good news for me in coming to this district, of course, is you have a great candidate. I think John Hall has demonstrated both in his personal and his professional life and also in his commitment to civic causes and issues, including having been a member and indeed president of the Board of Education, that he's committed to issues that are of concern to this district. I don't pretend to know the issues of this district. I do pretend to believe that most of the voters in this district, in fact all of them, are American citizens, and as such they're concerned about the national security of our country, and those are the same issues that I'm concerned about and the issues that I address around the country. Thanks very much. Happy to take your questions.
I have a question, gentlemen. Recently, Representative Kelly remarked that the Iraq War, about the Iraq War, she said Iraq was mostly pacified now and people were going about their lives as normal. Is this true or not true?
Well, yeah, there's that myth that somehow Iraq has been pacified. But if you take a look at this yesterday's New York Times they managed to get a copy of a leaked slide from the Pentagon, which indicates that Iraq is very close to what they consider, what the U.S. military considers to be a chaotic state. If that's not enough, if you don't want to believe the New York Times, you might just take a look at the fact that the British have decided they're going to evacuate their consulate in Basra, which is in the south of Iraq, and which is one of those cities that people like Sue Kelly continue to claim has been pacified.
I would also mention that Bechtel has announced that they're pulling their operations out of Iraq after losing 50-some employees' lives. And can Halliburton be next? I don't know. It's obvious to me when a brigade of Iraqi police that we have supposedly trained has to be pulled off the street and disbanded because they were infiltrated by death squads and Shiite militias. And when the National Intelligence Estimate, which is put together by all 16 of our intelligence agencies, says that, as it did 2 weeks ago, that there are more jihadists and more terrorists created by this war than existed before we invaded Iraq. It's obvious that the policy was wrong, and the concept was wrong, and certainly the execution of it has been wrong. So, as Ambassador Wilson is saying, you don't have to take it on our authority or the New York Times' authority, but our own intelligence agencies and corporations that have been there working, and others who make these observations.
Do we know what the true cost of the war is in terms of dollars?
I think it's, by the end of the year, estimated to be $400 billion, and some people have said it'll be pushing $1 trillion. Depends, of course, on how long we stay, but if this president is allowed to stay till the end of his term, which is what he has said many times, that it'll be up to another president to get the troops out of Iraq, and that he thinks we'll be there through the end of his presidency, that at that point it will have cost $1 trillion.
Yeah, I think in addition to the costs that John has outlined, what I focus on as a former diplomat are really the costs to American leadership, the political and moral authority of the United States as we engage the rest of the world. Obviously, there's the costs to the Iraqi people of literally hundreds of thousands having been killed, injured, or internally displaced by this war. The cost to our reputation in the rest of the world. I think it's important to remember that on September 12, 2001, it was the Taliban and Al-Qaeda that was isolated. Increasingly, we find ourselves as being the isolated power. And it's not because, as the President suggests, they hate our freedom. It's because they hate the fact that we've turned our back on those very values that have been our principal export over the past 219 years of constitutional rule. It is those freedoms as rights and rights that we enjoy in this country that have made the United States that city on the hill, that beacon of hope to the rest of the world. And when we turn our back on those values, that's what causes people to really doubt what the American experiment is all about and the validity of the American experiment. And those are all costs that will be charged against the United States and against our ability to exercise global leadership in a very complicated and difficult world.